Billionaires should be illegal. Bear with me here. The Roman Empire, in fact the Roman Republic, had certain rules and laws governing the idea of private armies. What the Republic didn't want was a general to have command over an army to the point where it became a private army. And that would be one person having too much power. Or a group of people like few generals forming a coalition. So power in the hands of one or a few was against the idea of their democracy. The Republic feared it becoming an empire. Now their democracy was quite different to ours. It was only landed men who had the vote. That's changed a lot of the time. But the very principle of democracy is that we will have a democratic committee with a setup that means that no one person has too much power. There are checks and balances in place. And what happened was that Julius Caesar became fairly popular. He'd led campaigns with his army across Europe and been very successful. He reached the point where he came to what is called crossing the Rubicon. You've heard that expression, I'm sure. And one of the laws was that there were no armies beyond the Rubicon, basically in Italy, in the heart of the Roman Republic. They weren't allowed. They were meant to be on the outskirts, on the borders, defending the Republic against enemies. But when Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon with his men, he broke that law. And he started becoming too powerful. And he wanted to be emperor. And this is the reason he was assassinated, because those who were defending democracy feared what would come next. And the rest, as they say, is history. Divesting power away from one or a few into a democracy, it's the very thing that the American War of Independence was about. They wanted to remove the tyranny of the King of England, Scotland, and Ireland, imposing their will on the people. And it became we the people. And this principle of democracy exists in most nations across the world. We stand on this principle that we will decide who's in power, who has the power. And these principles established by Rome are also apparent in many things like the British Army, where commanders, generals, are not allowed to stay in one place for too long. They're moved around. They don't want one battalion of men becoming too loyal to any particular commander. So the army is seen as one whole unit, acting for the government and not acting on the behalf of an individual or a small group. But what we have in today's world is a tiny elite of people who have become so wealthy they're beyond the pale. They have so much power because they can control media, social media. They can set the narrative for people. They can transport their agendas into your brain without you even realising them. And they have too much power. And in the same way that Rome was making efforts to stop that happening, we need to do the same. We should enact laws that if you reach a certain point of wealth, that you just have to stop. All money you achieve after that will be taxed. 90% tax rate over, say, 200 million, 300 million. Set a bar at which we know that people have enough. And you think a 90% tax rate couldn't work. Well, that was done in the Second World War and shortly after it. Into the 50s and 60s, we had very high tax rates. And that was one of the reasons why we were able to build economies with the money that was raised from those taxes. Let's just do it again and relegate the class of billionaire obsolete. Consign the status of billionaire to history. That's my opinion. Do you agree? Not agree? Leave it in the comments. Follow me for more.